3 different recipes, things that you can take. 2 of them are definitely things that you can take to a barbecue or a potluck that are sure to impress. And the other one is a really nice meal for your family that's pretty hearty and is a soup, because I love soup. It was the first dish. Well, soup itself was the first dish I ever made on MasterChef. And I'll tell you, soup has a special place in my heart. I actually did a conference at Dignity Day this year, and I talked about how soup is the meal that can bring us all together. So, and it is a unifying meal, and it is something that everyone can eat, no matter what your food issues or intolerances. So it can be made special just for you. So let's start. I'm hoping that you have the recipes in front of you. For those who are cooking with me, I'm gonna start with the kebabs. I'm gonna get them started. We're gonna put them in the fridge, and then we're gonna come back to them after we get the soup started too. Okay, and we're gonna leave the pickle salad till the end. All right, so let's start with kebabs. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a bowl and a pound of ground meat. It's your choice. You could use lamb, you could use chicken, you could use turkey. I'm using beef. You could use a combination of the meats. It's up to you. Or you could use a meat alternative, as long as it's ground. So we need a bowl and we need a pound of meat. So I got my meat from Hank DeConning's. It's just down the street from me, so it's really local. And honestly, that's the theme of our event tonight, is keep it fresh, keep it local. So you should be obviously choosing the farmer's market first. But on days when you can't get there, make sure that you're going somewhere local before you go to necessarily a huge chain store, right? So I've got a pound of ground beef here. And then what I'm gonna add to the ground beef is the following. I'm gonna chop 3 green onions. The whole thing is gonna go in there. So that's just a quick chop. These are gonna get cooked up. So you just want the greens and the whites. The whole thing. We're gonna mix them in thoroughly. One of the ingredients you might think is weird, but we're gonna talk about that in a second. So we're just gonna take these onions, put them in the bowl. Everything just gets put in the bowl. Now, we've got a spice blend in here. Now, the onions and the meat are a good starter. If you're having a meal that's Greek, put in Greek spices. You know, if you're having Mediterranean, you know, Middle Eastern, Italian, you know, you could serve these on top of a bed of spaghetti with a beautiful sauce. They don't have to be Indian, which is what I'm doing for tonight. They can travel the world. You can put your own spice blend in. Sometimes what I love to do is take a spice blend, a pre-made one that I've got, like a jerk seasoning or a Korean barbecue, and add that just to the meat and the onions and our odd ingredient, the melted butter, and it changes the flavor for you and makes it able to go along with what you're making, what you're eating that night. So we're going to add a blend of spices. I'm just gonna refer to my recipe so I get all of them for you. So it's a 1/4 teaspoon each of chili powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, ground cumin, turmeric, and cinnamon, okay? And I've got those pre-mixed in here. I'm just gonna add those to the bowl. And now I've got 2 tablespoons of melted butter, and I'm gonna add the melted butter in there. It has to be melted. It can't just be room temp, because we're gonna go in here and we're gonna mix everything with our hands, and we're gonna get it all thoroughly mixed in there. And it is going to be well, you'll see as it cools down, as the butter cools down with the meat and all the other ingredients, it does start to kind of firm up a bit. And we want that so that when we shape our kebabs, they really maintain their shape, but they also have so much moisture when you cook them because of that butter, right? I know it may seem like an odd ingredient, but I'm telling you, Paula Deen uses butter in her burgers, and it makes beautiful burgers. And this is just a surefire way of making sure that they're going to be moist and delicious and maintain their shape. So now that we've got that mixed, easily mixed up, nice and separated, we're just gonna throw this in the fridge and let it rest for at least half an hour. I would recommend an hour, so that it really firms up and it's easier to shape, okay? So that's the first part of our recipe is done. Quick, that's simple, easy. You can do this at home for sure. So I'm gonna wash my hands and I'm gonna get back to you for the next one. So now we're gonna make a delicious, well, we're gonna start it on making a delicious tortilla soup. So I don't know if any of you have had tortilla soup. It's a wonderful Mexican dish that involves cooking the chicken that's in it, the pulled chicken, right in the soup. So it has tons of flavor. And it's really like a heartwarming thing. It's nice and hearty. There's beans in it, so it's really healthy. It's got a little heat, and we can talk about that too. If you don't like spicy, we can make it less spicy. Not a problem. Even though I am spicy Mayo, and I do love my spice, I understand that not all of you are spice fanatics, and that's okay. There is something listed on the ingredients that I hate, and I'm not going to include today because I'm going to eat it, and I don't want to eat it. But if you want to include that, that's fine. I think cooking is all about a lack of judgment. So it's not about the things that you omit and people being like, oh, I can't believe you don't like that. It's finding the flavors that work together for you and adding some things to help change the recipe in order to make it better for you, right? And I think that's, cooking is so flexible, and sometimes people get out of control there and they kind of lose touch with that. So what we're first gonna do is grab a large pot, just like this, and we're gonna add some oil to it so that we can start sauteing our vegetables. We're gonna turn it on a medium heat, and we're just gonna add a little olive oil, or whatever kind of fat you want. I'm using olive oil, it's a little bit healthier. So we're just gonna do a drizzle. And then what we're going to add to the pan is 1 chopped onion, 1 seeded and diced jalapeno, and then 3 cloves of diced and crushed garlic, okay? Beautiful aromatics. Once you start cooking this, your house is gonna smell wonderful. If you don't like spice, just don't worry about the jalapeno. I would, however, replace it with a different pepper, like a bell pepper, a sweet pepper, just so that you still get a little bit of that pepper flavor, which is really nice in the soup. And always remember, when you are seeding your jalapeno, I love to just point it away from me, take a spoon, so that when it splashes away from your eyes. And then just take a spoon to get all the seeds out. It's really easy. And then that way, when you wash and make sure you wash your hands afterwards, it does make it less likely that you're going to burn yourself in any kind of sensitive areas. So we're gonna add this to the pan. And we're gonna let that sizzle and kind of saute up. While we're doing that, it does say, and it is the first part of the recipe, to take some tortillas and cut those into strips. So while our vegetables are sauteing, we're gonna cut our tortillas into strips. So I've just layered a couple because this is gonna be my supper tonight. So I'm not gonna do all 6 tortillas right now because I am gonna serve this again tomorrow. So you wanna make sure that you heat your tortillas really and get them crispy a little before serving, not necessarily first, because you do want them to still be warm and have that nice crunch to them. So you're just gonna cut them into slices, into ribbons here. And I'll show you how thick. Now I'm using fresh, beautiful tortillas. So just like that, if you can see, I'll make it out of the light here. Just like a tiny strip. And I've gotten these from Canamex in Glenmire. So these are beautiful handmade tortillas. authentic corn, no gluten. So perfect for anyone who is gluten-free. The soup itself is also gluten-free. And that's one of the things too that you really do need to keep track of. Just because you're buying tortillas from the grocery store, you do need to check the ingredients to see, because a lot of them are made with whole wheat flour. And they don't say corn on them, right? So you want to get as authentic as possible. And then what we're going to do is we're going to heat a frying pan with some oil. I'll be honest with you, I love to keep bacon fat. So I'm going to use a little bacon fat just to add a little extra taste to them and make them a little bit richer, a little bit better. But please, the recipe lists olive oil. Feel free to use olive oil or some butter, margarine. Just make sure that you have a fat in there so that you can make them nice and crispy. And you want that on a medium heat as well. And we're gonna toss those. We just need to wait a second until they get ready. Our other vegetables are starting to saute. You probably can't hear the sizzle, but I can. So while we wait for that to happen, let's get started on recipe number 3. That's right, we're going steps and stages, just like you cook at home, probably. Keep going with everything. You're gonna need a large jar, 1 liter mason jar, or I've got these pop tops from IKEA that I use for fermenting. And we're gonna start making our pickle salad, okay? So pickle salad is something I came up with because I had lots of extra vegetables in my house. After cooking, there wasn't enough to can, but there was enough for a salad, and I had people coming over and I wanted to make a salad. I'm part of a vegetable share. Those are some really cool things that you can do in the area as well. And I live alone, so I can't eat all of that myself. So doing something like this really helps me to extend the shelf life of the vegetables. So on the recipe, what it says is you need to pick 6 vegetables. Now, I would try to go for things that are pretty complementary. So what I have for my 6, watermelon radishes. If you've never seen them before, I'll cut one and show you a slice. Beautiful. They do look like a watermelon, green on the outside, like a purpley pink on the inside. I've got green beans, fresh, and we're going to talk about prepping those. I've got cucumbers from my garden. I've got onion, carrots, and golden beets. Now I've already peeled all of these just to speed up our time. And I have hulled the beans. So when you're doing a green bean, it's nothing fancy. It's snap the end, and then you're done. If the ends don't snap, if you don't hear that kind of break, what that means is your beans probably aren't that fresh. So the fresher the beans, the better the snap. And what we're going to do is literally just put them into bite-sized pieces and put them into the bottom of this jar. Okay? Easy peasy. Nothing crazy. You want everything in this salad to be layered and in bite-sized pieces, because in the end, you are just going to dump this into a bowl, like drain the liquid, dump it into a bowl, and serve it. So you don't want people like having to gnaw on a huge piece of a beet, because you're not really cooking this aside from adding the brine to it. So you do want thinner slices of beets and carrots, because they're going to need to cook in a brine in your fridge. So the cooking process will be cooled down as well. All right. So I'm just prepping veg. Everything's sizzling behind me. You want to layer things too, because if you're going to bring it to a barbecue, you want it to look with all these nice colors. Oh, there is something else I'm putting in there. I forgot. I'll tell you later. Okay. So we're going to we've done our first veg. We're going to put our tortillas in why don't you come over here with me? I've got you set up on a lovely tripod today. I was telling Carla about this before we started cooking today. I built the tripod out of a Pure Leaf iced tea bottle and tape. Yeah. People made fun of me about it, and that's fine. You can hear the sizzle of those tortillas now. We're gonna get those moving around. My veg in my pot are sauteing nicely. Give those a stir. And once your onions become translucent, they get that kind of clear quality like this. You want to add the rest of your ingredients. So we're going to do that now while the tortillas are crisping up. And I'm going to go through those ingredients, okay? Pretty simple. And then I'll give you a look at the soup when we got everything in. So we're going to add 2 diced tomatoes. These are local. All the vegetables that I have here are from Muse, the Muse Farmers Market, just outside of Waterford. It's a new market. It's where Wholesome Pickens used to be. Great people. And they're also going to be making beer, so also people I love. We're going to add a teaspoon of chili and a teaspoon of cumin. We're going to add a can of crushed tomatoes. Now, I don't think you can get those at the market, so this is one of those things where it's okay if you buy it at the store. 1 can of drained black beans. We're going to add those in as well. And then we're going to add 3 cups of chicken stock. Now, chicken stock cubes, stock cubes in general, are something I stocked up on once Corona started. Because I knew if I had stock cubes, I could always make soup. And you can crumble them into rice, and it adds a lot of flavor into your rice. There's something that's really great to have on hand and super simple to make broth. As long as you can make broth, you can make soup, and it gives you a lot of options to have at home. So it's something that's really great to stock up on and super inexpensive. So normally I would love to make my own stock, but you know, sometimes that's not an option, and sometimes you're rushing at night. So it's okay to use a stock cube and not feel guilty about it. I do it. I don't feel guilty at all. We're gonna add a handful of chopped cilantro. That's gonna go in there. And then we're also gonna add the juice of a lime. One little tip that's really great is if you do a lot of baking, zest your fruits, like zest your citrus before you use them. And you can keep that zest. It actually stores really well in the freezer. Keep it in a bag, keep adding to it. And then when you need to do that baking, you need some zest, you've already got it on here. So I'm gonna juice this lime. Pardon my side profile. Keeping an eye on these tortillas as we go here. I'll give you a look at those in a sec. So your tortillas by this point are looking, there you can actually see they're firm. I'm gonna try to hold this without burning myself. They've crisped up nicely. So like that, it's become like a little bit of a chip. We're gonna take those out of the pan and we're just gonna sprinkle a little salt on them. So we're gonna put them on a plate and sprinkle some salt on them. And you'll know they'll just be slightly browned, but you have to be careful with them because they are so thin that they can burn quickly. So just make sure you keep an eye on them and you keep tossing them. So they're gonna be nice and crisp like this. And we're going to put some salt on those. Let's move around again. Hello again. Look way shinier now. And we're going to just put a little salt on those and we're going to set those aside. Okay? You can do, this is your moment where you can do a little salt day. If you know what that is, popular back in the day, you just do a little boom, 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 a little salt over your tortillas, and then set those aside. And we're going to use those when the soup is done. So as all of the ingredients are in the soup right now, except for one thing, our chicken. And our chicken is going to cook in the soup. So what we're going to do, sorry, I got to take a pan off the heat here. What we're going to do is take our chicken breasts and we're going to just sink them into that soup. We're just going to push them down with a spoon. So here, I'll show you what I'm doing. Let me turn you around here. So here you are. Here's the soup. We're just going to take the chicken breast, place it inside, just take our spoon and sink it down. And then we're going to let that cook. And that should take probably about 20 minutes in the soup, but we'll check in on that. Okay? No big deal. Now let's finish our pickles and then we'll get that going as well. All kinds of stuff going on here. So we'll set our tortillas aside. You may also find that you're not doing all of this at once. So you have way more room than I do. I hope your kitchen is large. A large kitchen is always lovely. So we're gonna cut up our veg. So we've got our watermelon radish, and as promised, I'm gonna show you what they look like. And as we're slicing, actually, if anyone, my friend Carla and Betty, my friends, if anyone has questions right now while I'm slicing, we can do a round of questions. This is what a watermelon radish looks like. They're so pretty. I pickled some last year just because I love how they look. They're beautiful in a salad, just shaved really thin. They look so nice. So I'm gonna cut, and if people have questions or comments or issues or concerns, we can do that right now.
I think, Jason, the only comment was maybe we could see where you're cutting. I don't know if you can.
Sure, I can angle it down if you want to see me cut. Not a problem. That's why I'm holding things up for you guys, just so it's easier. Give me 1 second, I'll angle for you. It's just making do with what we got at home here. Okay, here we go, we're going down. It's tilt-a-vision here. All right. So I've got a nice marble slab here that makes cutting way easier. So just remember when you are cutting, keep your fingers bent like this so that you're not cutting off any of those beautiful digits of yours and keeping things safe. A mandolin also helps with this. If you have one at home, it can make life easier. But I find those are kind of scary for me too. But, so then we're gonna do our beets. What I would do with your beets, alternate your shapes. So with the beets, I'm gonna cut those into triangles and nice and thin. Now, I wouldn't use red beets. I would use golden or candy cane, just because the red beets will turn your whole salad red. It'll just be red. Everything will be red. It kind of like destroys the color of everything else. Even your green beans will have this weird tint to them. So just make sure you're making smart decisions on that and going with things. The golden beets will bleed a bit, but that color will be much nicer than that harsh, stark red, right? You can see how beautiful these are on the inside. Golden beets are my actual favorite. I think they're the nicest as far as flavor goes. And they do just have that kind of taste and that color that seems to be very rich to me and I think is very nice in a salad. And we're just layering up into our dish here. So we just keep pushing them in. I am gonna show you a trick for something, which I'm sure you've already seen but for some of you, it might be new. We are adding corn to this. And I did get beautiful Welsh Brothers corn. So the most popular corn in all of Norfolk. Well, I believe that's what I've been told. In Haldeman, where I live, it's Snyder's. So there is a battle, you know, which has the superior corn. So if you see, we're layering here. I'm going to do my cucumbers next. So remember, just keep your colors separate. And these are cucumbers I grew in the garden. I found that cucumbers were great this year, and mine were really early. And I'm sure you guys have them, tons of them at the market. It's been a good season for a lot of vegetables, but really early for a lot. I know my tomatoes started appearing much earlier than normal. I usually get them around, you know, now, because I do big batch canning at the end of the month, and they've already started showing up, so I've had to change my plans. This is a really comforting salad too, because people are really familiar with a lot of these flavors. So people love pickles. I hope. I know I love pickles, so I hope you do as well. And it's something that's familiar to people. It is a big hit at a party just because of that familiarity, and all those flavors are really nice together. I find pickle trays go really quick. People love that at any kind of occasion. So with your onion, you're just going to keep it like this and just cut it into medallions here. Because people get the strips and they're really nice that way. We're almost full here. Our jar is flowing over. We are going to add one more. Oh no, two more ingredients here. The onion can be tricky as you get close to the bottom. That's when a mandolin can be really nice. Just be careful with your fingers. You can turn it as well to make it easier to cut. And it is going to get separated. So even if you have a larger chunk, it's okay, because that'll get separated when you serve it. We're just going to add the carrots, then we're going to add the last ingredient here. And then as our soup simmers away and our chicken cooks, we are going to make our kebabs. By the magic of TV, I already have a batch that has been nicely cooled for you. If you're getting close to the top and you still have veg to add, just give it a push down. You can really jam all your veg in there. The brine will take up the rest of the space, and we'll make that mix as well. And it's just a standard pickle brine. Now we are omitting water. Most people who can add water to your solution. Because we're doing a quick pickle, we aren't going to add water because we do really want to get that flavor right away. Okay, so let's do a trick on how to cut corn. I'm sure you've seen this online, and it does actually work. You're going to take a bundt cake pan. You're going to take your cob of corn, and we only need one right now. And you're just going to place it in the hole in the center, and then just run your knife down, and it's going to fall into the sides. And you can turn it. And to be honest with you, it's probably what you're going to use your bundt cake pan for the most, because I'm sure we all have one sitting around that we don't necessarily use all that often. Okay. I know I bought this fancy one, and I use it maybe twice a year. So we're going to take all this corn, and now it's in here. We can break it up as we put it in. We're just going to pile that on top. And I'm going to show you a view from that from the side, and how pretty that'll look when you walk up to a party with the salad. And people will be like, "What is that?" And you will say, "It's beautiful." And it looks just like this. I'll close it so I can turn it on the side for you. But it looks like that. So it's just a beautiful mix of vegetables. Okay. Now, let's make the brine for the salad. You're going to need, let me just pop my recipe back up here. You're going to need the following. A cup and a half of white vinegar. So we're all just gonna pour this into a pot. I would recommend if you don't have one, try to get a pot at some point that does have a pour spout on it. It does make canning so much easier if you're making any pickles. So we're gonna do a cup and a half of white vinegar. Okay, I've got a little bit left here, so I'm just gonna add it in there. And now, you have a choice here depending on what you do have available at home. You can go with half a cup of rice wine vinegar. It's beautiful in your Asian cooking dishes. Or you could do half a cup of cider. What you want is that kind of sweet, tangy that those two vinegars offer. I love rice vinegar, so I always am going to choose that. If you are going to use cider vinegar, you can pick it up at the cider keg. They make their own vinegar as well. Then we're going to do 3 tablespoons of sugar. And then we're going to add in 1 bay leaf. I'm just going to grab that. And just 1 leaf goes in. And then we're going to take this and we're going to put this on the stove and bring it to a boil. And we are going to stir it. While we're doing that, I'm going to put you back up here. We're going to take a look at our soup and move our chicken around. So we're going to put our pot on the stove, bring it to a boil, give it a little bit of a stir as we go, because you really want to dissolve that sugar. You don't want that sugar to burn. So you do need to kind of stir it. Let me see if I can show you. Oof. You do want to stir it till the sugar dissolves. And always go in the same motion. Don't change your motion. Because as you keep moving like this, it's incorporating air and movement into it. So it will keep moving on its own and it will help the dissolving. Otherwise, you kind of mix with the flow and it changes how things work. And it does actually slow your dissolving process down and the heating process. So notice how all that sugar is gone. We're going to bring that to a boil. So if we go over to our tortilla soup, we can see it's boiling. Our chicken's starting to change color here. And we're just going to give that a bit of a stir to make sure everything is off the bottom. Just like that. To make sure our chicken is still covered. So that it'll poach in that liquid. And while we do that, you're back to me. Sorry, everyone. It's one of those, I wish I had like 80 cameras following me. It'd be really nice. We're going to make kebabs, okay? While our liquids boil, our soup bubbles, we can still get our kebabs going. So if you do not have the following at home, that is fine. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do the kebabs, all right? So the first way you use these beautiful metal skewers and you're going to shape the kebab onto the skewer, okay? If you don't have skewers, that is fine. You can just shape the kebabs into loaves, like tiny little kebabs, and you just won't have the skewer to help you turn them. You'll have to use tongs. It is fun to eat them off the skewers. you know, at a barbecue. It's kind of cool. Everyone else is hacking into a steak and you're eating off a skewer and it looks very chic, right? It's totally fun. It does help with the cooking process, especially with the turning, but that's okay. If you don't have them, you don't have them. You can find them in a lot of the grocery stores, in their cooking sections. And even I got mine at Winners, and they were a really great price and super durable, and really thick. So just a tip. So we're gonna take our meat that's rested for an hour. And so I'll show you, this is the meat that just went in. Okay. And this is the meat that's oh, the sun, hold on. Let me turn you so you're not glaring here. And this is the meat that's rested. It does have a different consistency to it for sure. It also has a different color to it. You can see where the butter has set and it's actually quite thick. So what you're gonna do is separate your meat into 6 sections. So you're gonna take your bowl like this, and I'm gonna tilt you down again. There we go. You're gonna take your knife and you're just gonna separate this into 3, or you're gonna put a line in the half, and then you're gonna boom and boom. And those are your kebabs. So you can then cut it through if you want. Notice how it is like quite firm now. I would give the same tip with burgers. If you're gonna form your burgers, wait, let your meat mixture rest in the fridge for an hour, and then form your patties. So we're gonna take this mixture here, and we're gonna form it along our skewer. So we're just gonna place our skewer in the center, and we're just going to form the meat down the skewer. It's as simple as that. Making sure you're pushing it together. You don't want to hold it too much in your hands because then that butter is going to melt again. So you want to shape fairly quickly. And then I put these on a wax papered cookie sheet. So it's just like that. And then on a wax papered cookie sheet. Okay. But right now I can put them on our table because it's cold. It'll keep the butter and we don't have to chop anything else. So we're good. Now, if you're not doing it with a skewer, it's as simple as just making a tube, like a log with it. So you could even take it and roll it if you wanted, or just form it on your surface like this and keep it like that, and then put that on just like that. And you're gonna put that on your wax papered sheet. And then until you're gonna cook them, put them back in the fridge so that they keep their shape, okay? I'm just gonna do a few more of these just in the logs because I imagine that's what most of you have at home and it's quicker. And I can hear my liquids boiling, so I wanna kind of speed this up. And like I said, this is like a really good thing to make. You could put it on top of pasta. You could put it with some rice. I like to do it with grilled veg. You can really twist the seasoning to what you want it to be. I've made it with spaghetti before. So instead of making meatballs, I've made kebabs. It is kind of just a different take on it and a little more fun. I often find too, with these spices, it's a good way of getting kids to try new things and new spices because they're familiar usually with ground meat. So how we're gonna cook these, at home, you're most likely going to use the barbecue, but if it's the winter and your barbecue's not out and there's 18 feet of snow, you can just use a grill pan, and that's what I'm gonna use today. Okay, so first, we're going to get our boiling brine off the stove so that we make room for our kebabs, for our grill pan. So our mixture is boiling now. It doesn't take very long. I'm just gonna give it one more stir I'm gonna take that bay leaf out. Sorry for this camera view, but I'm gonna take that bay leaf out because that's difficult to eat. You don't want that. I'm gonna take my brine, bubbling hot. Don't ingest it. It's very like sour. It's not, that is not the facial you want. And we're gonna pour it over our jar. So I'll hold, well, I'll tilt so you can see. Here we go. We're just gonna pour it over. And it should come up to the top. Now I've used way more than I should, so I'm gonna have to make more brine, but that's fine. I'll do that later. But the recipe will cover yours, so you should be good. And then it'll bring all the way up to the top, seal it. You see how it's just gonna start to cook, it's gonna bubble, and put it straight in the fridge. And let it sit for, now I'm gonna be honest with you, a good 6 hours is gonna give you a lot of flavor. So that's really nice, to something to do to make in the morning and then let it sit all day. But if you rushed and it's an hour before dinner, that's okay. And at least an hour will get it there for you, okay? So we're just gonna set that aside and we're gonna get these kebabs going. So I've got a grill pan here, right here. It's just a slotted grill pan, a Le Creuset. You wanna heat that up to medium. Now our pan's just been on there boiling, so I'm gonna give it a second. We're gonna heat it up to medium, and then we're gonna start grilling these kebabs. I'm gonna take the one off the skewer so they all look the same. You should get 6 kebabs out of this. And 6, I think, is a good amount. Each kebab itself is probably like a couple meatballs, so it makes a good amount. And once our pan is heated, we're just going to put a little, actually they've got the butter in them, so they should be good. We don't have to add oil to that. And please, with the barbecue, if you are using a barbecue, once they start to cook, the butter is going to drip down. So they will really heat up quickly and kind of start the fire of your barbecue. So just make sure that you really are turning frequently so that they're not gonna burn, okay? All right, while we're doing that, I'm gonna wash my hands and put some of that corn into the tortilla soup. I forgot, but don't worry, it's already cooked, so we're good. Let me get my bunt pan back. So that the corn's not touching the surface, so we don't have to worry about the meat. Makes it really fast too. You don't have to chase corn around the kitchen, which is kind of nice. Then we're just gonna take that corn, add it to the soup. Give the soup a stir. I wish you could smell it in here. You'd be so happy. Betty, you could probably still make it here to eat dinner with me. You can have second supper. All right, so we're gonna take our kebabs. Our pan should be heated by now. We're just gonna layer them into the grill pan. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna take you over to show you. You can hear the sizzle. That's what you want, your pan to be hot before you put meat into it. You don't want to put meat into it and then let it heat up. You really want to hear that sizzle. That will sear your meat and help it kind of release from the pan, and it'll be easier to turn. Also, you should avoid turning too much. I hope you know this trick, but if you don't, your meat won't turn easily until it's ready to turn. So if it's sticking and you can't pull it out, like you can't turn it, it's not ready yet. So just give it 30 seconds to another minute, try again, and once it's ready to turn, it'll turn. We're gonna hear lots of sizzling. Okay, let's take a look. Let me just log back into my recipe here. So, okay, I'm gonna take you over. We'll have a look. So you'll see the meat sizzling. I'm just gonna kind of put you on an angle, turn you down here so you can see. Just in the pan, you don't want to overcrowd, so you don't want more than 6 in the pan. Otherwise, it prevents them from cooking evenly. And that's a good tip for meat as well. Don't try to shove as many burgers in there as you can just to save time. It actually won't save time, it'll slow you down. Same thing with bacon. I find a lot of people will just throw the whole pound of bacon in there, and then it takes like half an hour to cook. Whereas if you just put a few strips in, it goes much quicker because everything's cooking evenly, right? And that's what we want, is nice, even cooking. So I'm just gonna grab my tongs here. I have a thing for animal-shaped kitchen gadgets, so my tongs are supposed to be an alligator's nose. Who knows? Yeah. So we're gonna set you up here. See if I can get you seeing a flip. Maybe not. Maybe so. I don't want to disconnect. One moment. See what we could do. There we go. All right. So you can hear them sizzle. Because I didn't put these back in the fridge, they did loosen up a bit with the heat. So they may fall apart a little. I would say put them back in the fridge and then put them on just before. Notice how it's got that nice, crisp, seared texture there. Give it a flip. I'm worried about this one coming apart. Boom. You want that nice crunch. It adds so much flavor to the meat. And the texture is so good. This one's falling apart. And that'll happen sometimes too. That's why we rest them before we put them on the grill. You can also freeze them. You can make them ahead and freeze them and put them on the grill frozen. And that'll also help keep the texture. So that's not bad. Only 1 out of 6 came apart, even though we didn't rest, so that's okay. So those are gonna take another minute. And then they're ready. You can hear that delicious sizzle. Our soup is bubbling away. We're almost ready to pull our chicken. We're gonna be done right on time here. These ones are perfect. They're keeping their shape. This one's like the photo one right here. What I always have to consider when I'm posting things on Instagram. Which one's the photo one? This one's the one you hide at the back. Or give to the person that's not fussy. go. And there's our kebab. Delicious, well seasoned, lots of flavor. This one I'm just gonna cook up now that it's already falling apart. Probably add that to a sandwich later this week. And we're gonna let that go. All right. Oh, am I still here? Shoot, shoot. Oh,
I think we lost your video.
I can hear you.
Yeah, we
Hold
can
on.
hear you, but
Let me see.
let me see if
I'm gonna try to resume. Here we go. Am I good? Am I here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Boom.
better. Thanks.
Okay. Sorry. It was like I was telling Carla before. I have buttons like in bad spots, so it's like there was no easy way. So those are your kebabs in better light. They look like this. Beautiful, darkened on the outside, super moist and juicy on the inside, as you can see, because of that butter. So tasty. So tasty. I'm gonna eat all of these later. Betty, you should come over. You and Carla come over. We'll have late dinner. Okay. So our last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take that off the heat so I don't have a fire in my kitchen. At this point, our chicken should be cooked. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna wipe down our counter. And then we're gonna pull that chicken and I'll show you, if you've never pulled meat before, if you've never made pulled pork, there is a trick to it just with 2 forks and you attack it with 2 forks. It's a really good stress reliever. It's really nice. Make sure you got a soapy sponge. Get your counter wiped down. We're gonna put a cutting board over top of this as well, just to make sure she's nice and clean and I don't get any E. coli tomorrow or tonight. Luckily, I have portable cutting boards because I do all kinds of cooking things. So we're gonna pull this chicken out. Use your forks, the 2 forks that you're gonna pull with. To bring that chicken over, you're gonna see that it cooked up really quickly while we were doing everything else. And then you just take your 2 forks and you're gonna move them away from each other and you're just gonna shred your chicken and it'll come apart. And then you're just gonna shred it apart like that. So that you get actually a lot of chicken in the soup. And you'll see the chicken is cooked all the way through in the liquid, so it is gonna be super tasty. And we're just gonna pull it like this. Now, while I'm pulling the other one, since we are close to our time, if we want to start taking questions, I will serve this up while we do questions, and I'll show you what it looks like as a finished dish.
Great, thanks. That was really great. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask any questions, feel free to.
That hour went by quickly, eh?
Yes, very quickly. I had a question. I was wondering, could you use like a bone-in chicken in the soup, or would that be fine?
Yeah, Carla, you for sure could use a bone-in chicken. You would just, when you pull it, you would have to take it off the bone, obviously. But that's not a hard thing to do. It would pull right off the bone, and then you would just do this pulling step, right?
Okay.
And then you could use your bone, actually. You could save your bones and use that to make stock for later. But yeah, just I would say the only thing I would avoid is skin, like no skin. because it's just gonna, you know, like when the skin gets like rubbery and poachy, and it's just gonna kind of hinder your process, I would say.
So if you
And
bought
like,
a chicken with skin on it, would you just take the skin off then?
yeah, I would, yeah. And then like honestly, I would save the skin. And you know how we fried the tortillas?
Mm-hmm.
You could do the same with the skin and serve that crispy skin on top of the soup.
And you could just fry it from raw skin, or would you? Yeah.
Yeah, you could just take that skin, slice it up like we did the tortillas, like into strips, and then fry it in grease in your pan. Like use some oil or butter or whatever in your pan and fry it till it's nice and crispy. Fried chicken skin is actually way better than most people think. That's the one thing that most of us really love from KFC, right? Is the skin on the chicken. Any other questions? Is Carla the only brave one? Kidding.
Hey, Jason.
Hello.
It's Janet.
How are you, Janet?
I'm fine. I have a question about the pickled salad.
Yes.
Can you keep that in the fridge for,
I would honestly, Janet, I would say you're good for at least. Hold on, I'm gonna put you looking at me. I would say you could go for a week.
Okay.
If, to be honest, I went longer because the vinegar and the sugar is preserving it. It is a quick pickle though, so you haven't, and it is sealed too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say at least a week and a half. So you could make it well in advance with vegetables that you don't want to just like, you're worried that you're going to throw them out. Like that's where it really came from, was like, I was like, I don't want to keep throwing out these vegetables. I need to make something. So I made that salad and I knew I was going to be serving people food in the next week. So I knew it would be okay. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome. So I'm going to add this chicken back into the soup. Give it a stir. I'm going to ladle that into a bowl and show you what the finished product looks like. And this is going to be my actual supper in about 2 minutes. So this is what the bowl of soup looks like. Beautiful, lots of flavor. And then you just take your crispy chips, which we can hear they're crispy, right? And you're just gonna sprinkle those on top. You could also, what the recipe calls for is you can put some sliced avocado on top if you like avocado. I will admit a sad truth to you. I do not. You could also put a little sour cream on there as well if you don't like avocado. So just to kind of give it that creaminess, which is really nice. And maybe if you like a little more heat, a sprinkle of chili on top of the sour cream. And boom, you're good. So tasty, which I probably should, I'll taste it right now and I'll tell you how tasty it is. Lots of flavor with those spices, right? And with the beans, it's gonna be super hot, so please forgive me as I burn my mouth. It actually has a really nice tang to it. So it does have some tanginess because of those tomatoes, and that lime juice really gives it a good kick. This is something I think you would definitely love. I would say let it simmer away on the stove like most of your soups. Let it kind of thicken and reduce. You know, if you have the time, let it cook down for an hour or so, and it'll reduce and get a little bit thicker, and the flavors will really develop more, and it's going to be perfect. Perfect. Any other questions? It doesn't even have to be about the recipes we made tonight. It can be about things you need to, maybe recipes that you're looking for, things that you want to know how to cook with. It doesn't have to be what we made tonight, or an ingredient that maybe you don't know how to use. I find that's often a problem with people, is that they don't know how to use certain ingredients.
Jason, I have a question.
Yes.
When I'm doing the meats, I like
Yep.
to combine. I don't like straight beef, so I
Yep.
usually mix pork and beef together.
Yep.
Now, those kebabs kind of are making me lean towards perhaps lamb and pork. Would
Pork. Yep.
that work, do you think?
Yeah, lamb and pork would be so good, Betty, because you would get that the juiciness of the pork would really help bring that together.
Right.
I do find with beef, the butter really helps the beef, because you know how beef can dry out. Like even
Yes.
with a hamburger,
Mhm.
even with like a normal hamburger, I really would rather go a 50-50 mix of pork and beef.
Yes, me too.
I find that to be the best ratio.
Mhm.
Some people are 80-20. I just think you want to have that richness. And you can actually buy pre-mixed. Like a lot of the stores have pre-mixed pork and beef together, which is nice. You could do chicken and lamb, like, you know what I mean? You could play with it. And because of how heavily spiced it is, any of those meats are really going to take on that flavor.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Good, thank you.
And Ben would love them.
I think so. He would.
I
He's
know.
loving everything right now.
Yeah. That kid loves food. I love that.
He certainly does.
You know what? That's an odd commodity in a teenager, Betty.
Oh,
They may love to eat, but they don't always love food.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jason,
Anyone else? Yes. Hello.
I just want to thank you for finding a use for my bundt pan.
Right?
Yes, that's really, really good. I have no other use for it, so that's great with the
And
corn in here.
it makes it so much quicker, and
Yeah.
it just fills it up, and you're good. It's
I know.
it's a really handy trick. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. And the other thing was dissolving your sugar, going in the same direction. That was really, really good, good practical tip. Thank you.
Anything you're mixing, even if it's not something that's heated, even if it's a cake, if you're mixing a batter, you want to keep going in the same direction, because it's adding air to it and making it fluffier. Once you stop and go in the other direction, you're beating the air out of it now. So it stops that process. So if you want anything to be lighter and fluffier, always in the same direction.
That is super. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, every once in a while, I gotta be handy. I can't just eat soup and have fun. Honestly, though, I wish you were all here eating this soup. You'd be so happy. Well, is that it, everyone? Are we good?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the draw now. If people are still around.
It's exciting.
I have the names in a spreadsheet and a random number generator. So here we go. And our first winner is Darlene Sauter. Yay!
Good job, Darlene.
Yay!
You're gonna be like me and have this beautiful apron.
And we got one more. We have Sharon. Sharon's still there. Sharon's iPhone. You are a lucky winner too. So I will email you.
I'm here. Well, thank
Congrats,
you
Sharon.
so much.
Oh, great. I have your email, so I'll try to email you and get an apron to you at some point.
Thank you.
And I'm not gonna help at all. I'm just gonna eat soup and kebab. So, you know.
Well, that's great. You got your dinner made now.
I know, right? It's good. I timed that out right. I knew what I was doing.
Yes. That was really great, Jason. Thank you. I learned a
Thanks
lot
so
of
much.
little tips, and I made pickled salad before, but I never thought of making it with all the vegetables. You know, I just limited it to usually cucumbers and onions, but
Yeah, and you know what? Same. But adding all those other layers really brings up the flavor. And like you literally just pop the top, drain it. Now, if you're going to drain it, save that liquid because you can use that brine in a salad dressing and it's going to have all the flavors of those vegetables in it. And it's going to be sweet and tangy. You add a little oil, shake it up in a mason jar, and you got a salad dressing. And that's one of those things. And then you just put the salad itself in a bowl and it's going to look great because it's going to have all those different colors, right? It's really good. Yeah.
could you
Good
just
time.
save the brine and just refill it with vegetables, or?
Yeah, you could. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might want to reheat and you're probably going to have to add a little more vinegar just because it's going to, do you know what I mean? The reheat's going to evaporate. But other than that, yeah, you're good.
Great. I'm
Yeah.
excited to try it.
Good. Well, thanks, anyone. If you ever are looking for tips or tricks, please follow me on Instagram. It's extra.spicy.mayo and DM me. I'm always ready to help with food, where to eat, how to eat, what to eat. I got you. I got you.
That's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you so much, Jason.
You're welcome.
Great ideas.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, enjoy the recipes. I hope you make them at home. Let me know how that goes. And it's been a good night.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everybody,
Thanks,
for joining us.
guys. Thanks, everyone.
Sign off. Have a good dinner.
Oh, yeah, I will.